Good evening. My name is Jack Macy, and today is May 5th, 2021. The time on deck is 6:41. And as of today, in regards to COVID-19, in the USA, there are 32 million cases, 574,000 deaths. In Wisconsin alone, we have 600,000 cases and 6,850 deaths. The percentage for the US population of vaccination is roughly 31.8%. With those stats being out of the way, we'll proceed. Do you consent to being filmed and recorded for the Western Wisconsin COVID-19 archive?
I do.
Please state your full name, age, race, and sex.
Jocelyn, Penagos, 27 years old, Hispanic.
Can you go over your background a little bit from your childhood to your present in a quick and brief manner?
Okay, so I was born in 1993 in Colombia, the country. The area is called Cali, which is the area of the country. Cali is not the capital of Colombia. That would be Bogota. During the time frame that I was born, the drug cartel was being exploited because of the death of Pablo Escobar. A lot of the documentaries that Netflix has released depict a very vivid, truthful images and videos of what I lived through. So the Cali cartel and the Medellin cartel were in great war. I grew up in a country that was divided, where we couldn't even trust our own airplanes because Pablo Escobar blew it up. A country that was trying to bring its own democracy and presidents down to make them believe that it was okay to move around. They were trying to also influence the United States at the time. So it was difficult to feel safe going to school, to feel safe doing anything. So I'm not an only child. I have an older brother. He was born in Miami. When it was nearing his time of becoming 18 years old, Colombia has a law where you have to serve. And due to the turmoil that my country currently was living, we were all going through, my mother feared him dying. To be honest, I can't remember off the top of my head the stats, but it was almost 75% of all the police officers that were essentially military recruited died due to the problems that were going on. So at the time, my mom feared it and decided that because my brother was born in the United States, he should go and pursue a life there. So I was left kind of without an older brother to protect me and show me the ways of how to, not be so gullible and think that humanity or people were nice. So yeah, that was kind of a snippet of my youth until I came to the United States. I was the age of 12. Definitely didn't think I was going to stay here. I didn't really know much about the United States aside from Disney World. Didn't know English. I only knew thank you and hello. So came to the United States. I was visiting New Jersey at the time, and my mom decided that she wanted to pursue the American dream. She didn't want to go back to Colombia because, by the age of, I believe I was 6 or 7, I had already been held at gunpoint. So to say that, being a mother, she wanted to pursue the American dream, but also provide opportunities that at the time my own country wasn't able to provide to me. So, she decided to stay in the United States, and I'm proud to say it, and it's horrible at the same time because I understand that at one point I was an illegal immigrant. We were pursuing asylum because of our own, danger. One of my grandparents was abducted by the guerrilla. And like I mentioned before, I think altogether, I think I got gun held 3 times by the time I actually got out of the Colombia, and we were being threatened to be also abducted by the guerrilla. So long story short, we stayed in New Jersey. I didn't understand the legalities of it. I just knew my mom was very cautious when there was police around, and I understood that we needed to hurry up if we were at a store. We couldn't seem so non-American. So plenty of times I found myself wearing American t-shirts, and I didn't know why, because I just had to play the role of an American. But anyways, because of the fact that she was always working, trying to make ends meet, I didn't really have anybody to teach me English. So I was blessed enough that God gave me a good noggin on my head, and I was able to learn English by reading books and watching TV. So I think by my second month, I had grasped a good understanding of English, and then made my way down to Florida, where, believe it or not, my math teacher, my 5th grade math teacher, I noticed was fancying my mother. And long story short, they ended up together. I hooked them up. So plenty of times I nudged him like, hey, I can't really go to do that homework because I have to go translate for you. And they got married, and then I pursued my military career because I was extremely humbled, and I felt honored to stay in a country like this, that not only did they give me, the peace of mind that, believe it or not, I couldn't even wear a nice watch. If you had a nice phone, they would bust the window and they wouldn't even take your phone, they would cut your hand. So, when you take those little things and you say America, like, I wanted to serve, and I wanted to give back to the country that's giving so much to my family.
Wow, that honestly is an amazing story, and I think your case for our archive is going to be perfect. Very unique. So with that background being out of the way, we're going to talk about a little bit COVID. So when you first learned about COVID-19, what were your first initial thoughts about it, and how has your thoughts changed since?
Okay, so when I had learned about it, I was actually visiting my family in Colombia. I believe it was like mid-January, I was over there in Colombia visiting my grandma, and I heard about it, and I was confused because I didn't think it was going to stay around. I thought it was going to be something that, people freaked out initially over, but it wasn't going to stay long term. We didn't know too much about it. I didn't think that it was going to hinder my ability to visit my grandma. But I mean, ever since I saw her, but I never thought I couldn't come visit her because of what if she, passes away? What if I contracted on the way to visit her, and essentially I caused her to get ill. My grandma is 93 years old here in 26 days, 24 days. But yeah, I mean, essentially, I didn't know that this was possibly going to be the last time that I see my grandma. One thing is having the military tell me I can't visit her due to location, situation, mission. Another thing is having a disease and myself become potentially something that could harm somebody that I love the most.
That's a very interesting case, especially in your shoes with the military. It seems like they're not letting you leave, and through personal thought, you don't want to harm her, as you said. I mean, with that, basically, I'll just move on to my next point, which was those were your most concerned issues with COVID-19 was regarding your family. Is that correct?
I mean, I don't think, just my grandma, my mom, she was going through a couple of surgeries herself. And the military restricted us for my recollection right now, for about 6 months. We couldn't travel. We couldn't leave a certain mileage, if I'm not mistaken, was 250 miles away from here. So, I mean, I couldn't drive, I couldn't fly. And, you know, knowing and understanding the laws in the military, even if I did do it, what if once again I injured or hurt my family because of my desire to be there for her, to drive her to get a surgery? You know, it's crazy how at the glimpse of a minute of an eye, it's like everything is done. You no longer have the ability and the freedom. I mean, I've experienced lack of freedom in the military, but now it's like to see humanity experience it and to see how people, men, kids, they started to have panic attacks, experience depression. Like, I started to try and figure out how can I be there for other people, you know. But yeah, it was very interesting, and I think if anything, it's given a lot of people a glimpse of what freedom really means, what military personnel really have to go through.
Yeah, and you mentioned you grew up in Colombia, you lived in Florida. Where do you live now?
Well, I got stationed in Milwaukee. Didn't know anything about it. I was in Bahrain, and the individual that is in charge of moving me to places asked me, where would you like to go? And I've been in the Marine Corps now for 9 years as of this summer, and I thought, okay, well, finally somebody's asking me, so I'm gonna say my truth. I would love to be in Florida to be with my family. I would love to either go there, New York, or California. And they came back and said, well, you got either Ohio, Texas, or Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I said, Texas. And then they came back around and said, Milwaukee. Didn't know about it. All I knew was I like to ride Harleys. I avid motorcycle rider. So I thought maybe that would be a plus, because, in the military, we always try to find pluses. And then I heard about the cheese. And I mean, I like cheese, but I love cows too. I don't know, it's kind of crazy. I love animals. So I started to try and figure out where the fun parts of Milwaukee would be. I heard about the festivals and the diversity. But unfortunately, I got here in September of 2019, and then everything got shut down.
That's awful. Well, so you arrived and work was going all right, but has COVID, has it changed your employment as far as maybe a day-to-day workflow, or just entirely has it changed?
It's funny that you say that, because in 2019, when I got here, I was introduced to the program of Toys for Tots. I've heard a lot about it, knew the Marine Corps represented it. I understood a very small part of it, but I didn't know what it actually encompassed. So I was blessed enough to experience a Toys for Tots where people didn't have to wear a mask and stuff like that. But as soon as that, like I said, that January of 2020 occurs, I come back from Florida, and then we get slapped with, you're teleworking. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie about it. I was extremely happy. I was like, wait a second, I get to be at home and make my breakfast and make my lunch and log on the computer whenever I would like to. But then little by little, I was like, man, I don't even know these men. I don't even know these Marines that are in my unit. I know they're grunts. I know they're not accustomed too much to women, female Marines. So my brain is going, and I was hoping to have some interaction with them, but honestly, it wasn't until July that I was able to even see them. And there's 150 of them. There's only one of me, and it was hard to even get them to, I don't know, to see what their personalities would be like. Not only that, I mean, Toys for Tots for 2020 was up in the air. We didn't know if we were going to do it. I was given the position as a coordinator, and I was facing an uphill battle of trying to figure out how can I represent and provide to the community. And a lot of, new people that perhaps in the past had a stable job now needed it more than ever. So it definitely made myself and the Marines that assisted me with it think outside the box. Not only that, destroy the box and try and figure out how can we provide, how can we get the word out there. So it was definitely crazy, but it ended up in great avenues being created, in new ideas, and that's what I love about working with Marines, because especially with this group of Marines, they're local to the community. They know exactly what works and what doesn't work. So if anything, although I feel like it's a blessing in disguise, because I felt like through it all, at least in that specific program, it provided Marines the ability to shine and become better leaders. And if anything, have confidence in themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned you saw the effects of Toys for Tots and possibly their families and the Marines as well. So with that being said, how have the people around you been affected as far as their employment with COVID-19?
Well, personally, my brother, he's a chef for Disney. And I mean, the year started out in 2020. Everything was great. By March, he lost his job. And I had actually started working at Amazon. So I found myself working 40 on top of the Marine Corps work. I was working at least 40 hours, 35 hours a week to provide money for my brother, for my family, because now, there wasn't rent. Unemployment was backed up with so many people, losing their job. It was very stressful. My mother, her hours were cut greatly because they hadn't, still come up with the visors, the little window stuff for everybody's job. We were running out of masks. So it was definitely a time of panic for my family in Colombia. My grandma doesn't drive. She's 93. My aunt doesn't drive it either. So how are we going to get food to them? I can't fly. I can't see them. They're by themselves. It was definitely extremely stressful on my point, trying to figure out who can I pay in Colombia to get them food? Is it clean? Can I assure that they're not going to get, infected? Do we leave it at a 72 period outside of their house? Like, it was extremely stressful.
Yeah. So with not being able to see your family for such a long time because of COVID, do you think your communication skills have gone down, either from family, friends, or just strangers? Do you think that communication barrier has been weakened, maybe raised, or do you think it's impacted it at all?
I mean, personally, I will say that for the first, I think all the way up until October, I mentally hunkered down to focus myself on military work, on Amazon work, on schoolwork, and how I was going to overcome this whole Toys for Tots situation. And it greatly impacted negatively my communication skills with my family, because my brother wanted somebody to speak to, somebody that he could tell his fears to. And I failed as a sister because all I cared about was providing money. Yeah. Where he wanted was, I want to talk to you. I want you to listen to me, and I want to be heard. And for my mother, unfortunately, also going through surgeries because of her carpal tunnel, I just focused on that. And she was going through depression. She, at one point, admitted wanting to commit suicide, and it rocked me to my bottom to know that I wasn't listening and I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to, if anything, put the Marine Corps first and not my family.
Yeah, so you would agree with that. Although overall COVID-19 has affected everybody more negatively than positively. as a whole?
Most definitely. Oh yeah, most definitely. I think, I mean, I know that I have some demons in the closet, and they definitely came out. I feel like human interaction is extremely important. Not only that, just the small liberties in life, of being able to go out and people watch. You can't even people watch anymore. You can't sit there and watch two couples and, figure out like, oh, is that their first date? The small things that, I mean, I do silly stuff like that, and you can't even do that because now their face is covered. They're scared to be around you. I mean, dating. Hey, I was stationed in the Middle East, so I'm proud LGBT. I came to Milwaukee and I was like, yay, freedom, I can be myself. And now it's like, well, I can't even see your face. I can't be anywhere around you. I feel like, and even hearing it from my friends, the amount of my friends that were going through anxiety, depression, just it was crazy. I mean, I'm used to it because I'm in the military, but now from the civilian spectrum, what I saw, it was worried. It made me extremely worried.
Yeah. Just to go off of that, with your military background, how do you think it's impacted military personnel? Maybe as far as both their communication skills, do they talk different with each other? Are they allowed to do certain things? Are they not allowed to do certain things? And I know you're a high ranking official, so you might have more say on the rules that are set, and how they're basically overseen.
I think that if anything, I mean, what I witnessed, the long time that we spent teleworking as a company, created this camaraderie and this sense of fellowship that perhaps the Marines never thought they would have with each other. It created a lot of creativity in the courses that they were trying to run. But essentially, it also, in a way, kind of created some division, because I felt some Marines definitely, didn't feel like they're respected. I mean, unfortunately, we're the tip of the spear for a reason. So that means that we are going to follow the CDC guidelines. We are going to follow the guidelines that are provided to us for safety, but we are going to train. We are going to continue to ensure that you're prepared for anything that happens in the nation. I mean, we witnessed it, how the National Guard got activated in DC. I'm sure they weren't happy about it, but that's why we're there. That's why we signed a contract, and that's what you need us for as a country. So, like I said, it created creativity, it created fellowship and camaraderie, to see the Marines reach each other, whether it be playing Call of Duty or these conversations that they had. But it also definitely made some individuals upset that they were being put at risk. Not only themselves, these Marines locally here, I mean, they go back to see their families. They don't have what my issue. I'm sure that they wanted to have parties. I'm sure they wanted to visit grandparents and cousins and so on. And I'm sure a lot of them weren't able to, because they just came in contact potentially with 150, 130 Marines.
Right. So if we're still talking about COVID, and the impacts of it, have you personally had COVID?
Yes, I did. I got the COVID. It was funny that you say that. Like I said, we started drilling back up again. I believe it was in August. It wasn't at full force. We're starting to figure out starboard. So like for instance, in non-military verbiage, we were trying to figure out, okay, we're going to do, at one point we said we're going to do from letter A of the alphabet of their last name to M. And they're going to come from this period of time to this period of time. And then we're going to clean the facility, and then we're going to have the other Marines come in. We tried to the best of our ability to be safe, to wear masks, and, even try and teach these classes. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to do it, but try and scream at 150 Marines at the same time with the same volume to try to explain a class. I mean, I'm a sexual assault preventative representative, and how much I yell at you about the whole class. But yeah, in November, we gathered all together. I was busy with Toys for Tots, and that drill weekend, one of the other staff and COs texted the group chat and said, I just got tested positive. So as a safety precaution, our major instructed that all of us must get tested. And I had been feeling a little bit sick, but I got tested positive. I thought I was fine until maybe 3 or 4 days after that, especially Marines, because we're so poor. We all fancy ourselves indestructible. And, if you went through boot camp, then you're not going to ever die. But I found myself struggling to bring my dogs up after walking them. I found myself having a heartbeat of 140 after walking them. And I didn't want to say anything, but my Hispanic mother about grabbed a flight to slap the living silly out of me, to not say anything bad. But yeah, I found myself going to the ER twice. Yeah, so it was challenging. And even after testing negative, I can't say I'm at 100% my fitness rate right now, but even walking, even running, I had to get accustomed to what life would be after COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know family is a big priority for you, or friends as well. Have any of them had COVID, do you know?
Thankfully, my mother and father have not. My brother got COVID. His wife had COVID. Both of my nephews had COVID. My aunt got COVID. My grandma did not get COVID. Yeah.
So while you're in quarantine, or just when you come back from work, what do you do for fun while you have COVID? Or what did you do?
Good question. So a lot of Call of Duty. I almost reached one of the highest levels of Call of Duty. I was actually pretty good at it. I walked my dog. I did some schoolwork online. I tried and attempted to do some recipes, some new healthy recipes, and failed quite a bit. I set my, smoke alarm off quite often. And I think that's about it. I mean, I'm a very calm, easy, chill kind of person. So, I day drank. I did do that. I'll be honest.
What about your family? What do you obviously keep in contact with them? You call them, text them, FaceTime them. What have they been doing for fun while they're on lockdown, or just when they come home from virtual work, or whatever it is, however their life has been impacted?
Funny that you say that. My parents because they were indoors almost all the time, they started to get into this home improvement show, and calling them like maybe once or twice a week. And from one week to the other, my mom and my dad decided to have this amazing light bulb idea to knock one of the walls of the house down and get themselves into, like, if I'm not mistaken, $10,000 in debt, because they wanted to increase the home value. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks beautiful, but turning back around and like talking about it, they were like, we don't even know why we did that. They were so bored that they wanted to do this home improvement in their own home because they were bored.
Right.
I mean, my parents, like, they're up there in age and they're wise and wisdom and all this stuff. And I ever thought they would do that. Like, I would expect that from a young Marine to go outside and go get a Mustang because he or she is bored. But my parents to get themselves into that much of a financial debt because they're bored. And then for later on for them to admit it, that was crazy. Yeah. I mean, my brother, he's a chef, so he didn't really have too much of ability to work because Disney was shut down. So he definitely gained like 20 pounds. Yeah.
Would you rate your lockdown a success for you personally, or no success, or something you aren't proud of, essentially?
My lockdown, success, no success, or something that I'm proud of?
Yeah, where would you rate it? Are you happy with the lockdown and what you've done with it, with your time, or are you nothing's improved, something's improved, or you feel like you've gotten worse at something?
I think that question warrants like it being broken up. Me personally, I would say a success. Um, just because, I mean, with the amount of stuff that I've lived through in my life, it wasn't a freaking year. I'm alive. My family's alive. Thankfully, I'm blessed to say that I was able to, provide for my family. I grew as an individual. I learned and I adapted, kind of like how Marines do. But at the same time, I would also say I wasn't proud of some of the decisions I was making. I was drinking quite a bit that didn't help me or my liver. But yeah, overall, I mean, I would say I was one of the few that say I have not witnessed or had one of my family members pass away. Because I will admit to you, there were plenty of times that I contemplated what would happen, especially with my grandma being 93 years old, if she does pass away. I think if I would have experienced a death in my family, the quick would have been, a horrible freaking year. I would have deemed it not a success. But just from my personal experience, it was good. It was a good year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's good, And while you're sitting indoors, you're locked down. What source of information were you getting all this from, for as far as statistics about COVID? Were you more inclined to be on social media through Facebook, Instagram, and so forth, or were you still sticking with the news every day, radio, or?
Oh no, I was doing everything. I was listening to, Fox and ABC and all these news medias. But I was also trying to seek outside information through Facebook, Instagram. And I hate to say it because I don't really like too much social media, but even TikTok sometimes had information that the news still hadn't had. It's crazy to say it, and like I said, I don't like it, but yes, I was definitely looking at those maps to see which states were the hottest, which states could I travel to, which states could I not travel to, especially with my position in the military. I need to make sure that I'm providing the most accurate information to my Marines to make sure that they're safe if they are willing to travel. I mean, at one point, I traveled to Pennsylvania, and I needed to know, do I need to quarantine after coming back from there? I needed to know who was infected, who was not, how many deaths were happening. Like I said, my concern was not so much for my safety. My concern was, what if at one moment one of my family members passes away and I need to go visit them? I don't want to kill my dad, if my mom passes away. I don't want to kill my aunt if my grandma passes away.
Right. And, with gathering information about COVID-19, I don't know if you're like watching the politics or understanding any of that, but how well do you think your politicians handled the COVID-19 lockdown here, either in Wisconsin, or, as you say, your parents live in Florida, so maybe you're paying attention to that as well?
I don't think it was handled the way it should have. Florida, unfortunately, is a state that is ran by tourism, 100%. If you don't open up the state, you don't get businesses. If you don't get businesses working, we don't get money flowing in. I mean, like I said, my brother was directly affected because his job wasn't there. How are you going to get Disney open if people keep dying? So I don't feel like Florida should have opened as quick as they did. Wisconsin itself, I feel like Wisconsin did a good job, to be honest. Right away, things were being closed down. My favorite taco place was closed down, literally opened up a month ago. And I was extremely happy. So, I mean, gyms were being closed down, whereas I would say Texas, Florida, they were very quick to open things up. Unfortunately, COVID couldn't have hit at a worse time. The country was split. The country was split politically, and the country was split between, current president at the time. I think it was a year full of turmoil and extreme things that, in my opinion, have divided us more than unified us.
Yeah, definitely an interesting year, 2021. I just want to touch, it's obviously 2021 now, and the pandemic started in 2020. Do you think that in that time period have we handled the situation? Is it been too long, or has it been just the right amount of time? Because we're nearing the end of it, we're getting our vaccines out. Do you think as a country we've taken too long of a period?
I feel like if we would have stuck it a little longer, for example, like countries like Italy, where they shut down for longer than we did, but that allowed them to recover quicker. Whereas because of the freedoms within the states and their rights, one state didn't agree with the other, which has now prolonged the process overall. I mean, factored in with the presidential election and other problems that have occurred in the country, I feel like we have done our best to inform the Americans, to take care of the Americans, and at the same time, get the vaccinations out. So, I mean, to answer your question, with everything that I know how the United States is, I feel like we've done just enough to keep our people calm, to show that we do care, to stimulate our country, to open up the jobs. I feel like we've done enough. I mean, we're a country of freedom, and as much other people might disagree or agree, although we didn't follow things the way other countries did, we did it the American way. And ultimately, it's got us where we're at right now. Are there issues? Are there problems? Has COVID brought and shined the light to a lot of issues? Yes, it has. But if anything, we've always grown from our toughest moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're talking, the vaccination is currently out, and there's a couple options. So have you been vaccinated yourself personally?
No, I have not. No, I have not. Personally, to be honest, like I said, I don't feel like it's my time to do it yet. Although there have been problems with, for example, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and there've been so little baby problems. I would rather wait for more time to pass. I know the Marine Corps is going to, in the military, the DoD is going to require at one point for all of us to have it. I know there's been gossip and conversations about, travel being restricted. Is that even allowed? Does that infringe against our rights, our freedoms? I just personally, I know all that talk and all that stuff is getting stirred up, but at the moment, I would like to wait until I either have to 100% do it to visit my family, to go to Colombia, or two, I feel safer with the vaccine that is being provided.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to touch back on your military side, what rules or restrictions did you have for your Marines when they came on base with COVID, or if were there any testing set in stone, and what were essentially, what would happen if they had the COVID?
So when we started drilling in person, definitely the temperature checks were being conducted prior to Marines actually getting out of the car and trying to come into the facility that we have. So, I mean, right off the bat, as soon as they came into the gate, they were being temperature checked. They were being asked all the multiple questions we've been being asked, you know, have you come in contact? Have you had a fever? Have you been throwing up, et cetera, et cetera? So those questions were being screened out. Have you traveled outside this area? Have you traveled outside the United States? After they passed through that section, they were brought inside to the HCC, but we essentially separated them from one place to the other so that they wouldn't get near each other. Mask, of course, 100%. And once they actually came back from the field, they were sprayed down with a liquid that I can't even say the name, but yeah, their packs and themselves were sprayed down. You know, hand sanitizer was provided. Yeah, through the whole time, we have done our best to separate them with the 6 feet apart. And we went from going to one of our training facilities in 3 buses to having at one point 6 to 7 buses to provide that space for all the Marines to have, you know, to feel safe and at the same time following the CDC guidelines.
Yeah, well, you know, not to drag this on as long as it needs to go, but I'll finish off with, where do you see us with the COVID-19? Where do you see us as a country moving forward? Do you think this will help us or not, essentially?
COVID. I don't want to say I lean either way. I mean, I feel like it could. If we're talking about percentages, because I mean, I like to deal with numbers. I say I lean more towards it helping us than dividing us, than separating us. But you also, I would be a fool to say that if we don't take into consideration the current problems that we deal with in the United States. But yeah, I feel like it definitely has brought us together, and it's made us appreciate the small things in life and appreciate, you know, human communication.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any final thoughts or words that you'd like to say?
No.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you very much for being a part of our COVID-19 archive here at Western Wisconsin. And it was a very, very interesting time. And your story is very, very interesting. So thank you very much for your time. And I've got nothing else for you. Thank you.
All right. Take care.